Okay, so I just want to let you know we are recording this session. Welcome everyone to Architect My Life, Architect My Freedom, the architect's strategy for success, sanity, and scalability. It's very hard to pronounce for me. Anyway, my name is Graciela Carrillo, AIA. I am the Long Island Women in Architecture president. I mean, Women in Architecture co-chair, and I'm also the chapter's president. Today, we are hosting this event with AIA Cleveland and the Women in Architecture in Cleveland. We are very happy to be hosting this for the first time with them, and we hope it's not the first time and the last one. So now I would like to introduce you to Robin Wolf. She's the AIA Cleveland President-elect 2021. And Sandra Madison. Sandra is the co-chair of the Women in Architecture.
Thank you, Graciela. AIA Cleveland is very excited to be part of this and collaborating with AIA Long Island. And we're also very excited that we get to introduce you today and you get to meet Aia Shlachter of the MGS Global Group. I met Aia the 2 years that I was the director of Women in Architecture for our board. And she's got great energy and is a great person to work with. So Aia is a mom, wife, entrepreneur, speaker, and CEO of MGS Global Group. She started her business as a new mom to her 6-month-old daughter, living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Queens, New York. Now, MGS Global Group has team members worldwide, including the US, Finland, Mexico, and the Philippines. MGS Global Group is a built environment, architectural, and graphic design consulting firm serving the creative industry. Its team specializes in architectural support, graphics production support, and design consulting services in the retail, residential, and hospitality sectors for leading brands and publicly traded Fortune 500 companies on a global scale. Aia also runs the Architect My Life program, where she helps female creative entrepreneurs and CEOs like architects and designers scale to 7 figures in 12 months or less while enjoying more out of life along the way. Aia earned a master's degree in architecture and urban design from Columbia University and a bachelor's degree in architecture from the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Her interest in the hospitality industry led her to further her education through Harvard University's Hospitality Design and Planning Professional Development Program. Aia has completed over a dozen triathlons, marathons, and open water swim events. She remains balanced by practicing health and wellness, spending quality time with her family, and spending time outdoors. So without further ado, please welcome Aia Shlachter.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks for the introductions, and thanks everyone for being here. It's an honor and pleasure to talk to everyone, and I hope I can give value to everyone who's here. But before we start, I just want to know how many here are firm owners. If you can raise your hand. Okay. All right. I'm a little okay. How many of you are working moms or wanna start a firm or a side hustle? I can't see the raise of hands, but if you don't mind, Graciela, telling me roughly, approximately how many people want to start their firms. Okay. All right. So, so this lecture is called Architect My Life, Architect My Freedom. And the question is, who is this for really? I don't think it's only for architects, and I welcome all the non-architects in the group. 2020 has been so crazy for all of us, firm owners, moms, people who are working remote, because right now we're living in a proactive life, reactive life, not proactive, because, we had to react to a lot of things that happened in 2020. So my talk today will be really about taking control of our lives, our time, our futures, really. And it's been very challenging for me as as a company owner, and I'm sure a lot of you struggle too, working from home, balancing children, family, aging parents. For firm owners, finding new jobs or just fulfilling new jobs, because it's hard to keep a firm afloat right now. one of the reasons why I'm glad you guys, Graciela and AIA Cleveland, asked me to do this talk at the end of the year is because, like, early during COVID, I hang out in a lot of Facebook chat groups like Women in Architecture, Mothers in Architecture, and I see a lot of people who complain like, oh, there's no more job security. I don't know what to do. I might get laid off, or I hate my husband. I hate my kids. I hate my job, because they're all in the same space. That was early COVID, but I'm sure things have changed. But I'm glad to be talking to you today, and I hope that I can help you restart, reset, and jumpstart 2021 with a plan. Okay, so here's our agenda for today. We're gonna have values and principles discovery session, work-life integration hacks, a 5-point starter checklist to launch your firm for people who want to start or side hustle, and for business owners, business growth in any economy. So the way we're structuring the talk, the first two sessions, I'm gonna talk about the first two and then take a break for a Q&A. So if you have any questions, please type it in the chat. Maybe I might not be able to see because there's a lot of people, but we'll stop at work-life integration hacks and then we'll continue.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that our co-chair, Ebru Sulker, she is going to moderate.
Oh, okay,
Session.
Ebru.
So
Yeah.
everyone just feel free to send questions in the chat, and then we're going to have a moderation.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so the first slide is our values and principles discovery. And this is a take-home exercise. I mean, I'm not requiring you to do this because it's quite long, but the purpose of this exercise is to really validate our why. Like, why are we doing things that we do? And when I talk about value systems, it's not what people think we should do or what our parents think we should do, but these are really questions that we are already doing and the things that we are thinking about doing. So I would like you to take a screenshot or a photo of this slide. It's the DeMartini value determination question. So it's 13 questions and you write down 3 per category. And then you tally the top 6 most commonly repeated words on the list. And then this will determine your highest hierarchy of values. Again, if you see, it's like, how do you feel your space? Or how do you spend your energy? Or it's all things that you already do, not what you're supposed to do or what the rules say you're doing, right? And what inspires you? What do you do most often talk about? Or where are you most organized? My husband always makes fun of me because my closet is a mess, but then but my work is really on point. I never miss a deadline or whatever, like, things like that. So we need to assess our value system so we can plan our lives better, right? So again, take a screenshot. And the reason why this is really important, because our values impact every aspect of our life, like our personal and work behaviors, interactions with family, friends and coworkers, our decision making process, and happiness and well-being. But we'll also know that most of the things or a lot of these answers to your questions could be voids as well, like money voids. Like, I don't have money, so people will value money because they might not have did not have money growing up, or time, for instance, or health, right? Like, I'm an active athlete, and when I don't exercise, like, it pisses, I mean, I get cranky and my brain doesn't function that well, right? So I don't know if you're done with the screenshots. Take this at home and do this exercise over the break. So these are my top 3: family, health and wellness, and business and entrepreneurship. So that's my family, and I used to do a lot of triathlon off-road races. And this is really how I spend most of my time. I mean, you can't really do anything else other than these 3, right? More photos. I recently took up golf this summer because I couldn't go out, and that was the only activity I could do. So it's nice to see my family on the screen. I miss my parents down here. They're in the Philippines. So to conclude this values and principles discovery, all of us need to live life based on your true value system, not by other people's rules. If you can learn how to live an authentic life, you can achieve ultimate freedom. Early before COVID, I used to travel a lot, and a lot of people who didn't have the same lifestyle as I always questioned, why are you traveling so much? Why don't you stay home? Your kids are young. But I realized I need to block these people and not even feel not even get bothered by it, because I have my own principles and values, which is my family, to provide for my family, my work, and my children. And my husband was supporting me, so I decided, you know what, if I had to listen to everyone, then my life would be very difficult, right? But before sorry, I have my sheet. So for those of you who don't know me, and people are wondering why I'm going to be talking about hacks and all that, early in 2008, when I was still living in New York, I told my husband and I agreed to move back to the Philippines for 3 years, because originally I'm from the Philippines, and I decided after college I'll go home and work there, start my business there. But I met a guy from Cleveland. That's why I live in Cleveland. I met him when I was in New York, and I said, before we get married, can we make a plan? Can we move to the Philippines for 3 years where we're still young, try it out? And he agreed. He's a guy from Cleveland in I think Lyndhurst, Ohio. So he's this white guy. I'm like, can you please go home to the Philippines to try it out? He agreed. Perfect timing in 2008. Um, I already had my a few clients when I started in my apartment. I was my expertise then was in retail. So Coach the bag company was already my client, and I said, you know what, Larry, it's time to go back home. Perfect timing. We have a kid. I have a pipeline of clients. We have an apartment that we just bought in Jackson Heights. We can rent for 3 years, and then we can figure it out. We're like, yes, we packed our bags, moved back home in January 1st in 2008. So we had a perfect plan, right? So moved back home, and everything was great until the economy crashed. So we were living in my parents' basement then, and I still had savings, but economy crashed in 2008, and Coach decided not to hire me. Everything was frozen. And now I brought my husband, who had a great job from the Queens Public Library Foundation. Now I'm 33, he's 35. We're living in my parents' basement with nothing. And I'm like feeling so guilty because, it didn't feel good for me to take my family here with no resources. Luckily, my parents were able to provide for us, like food, shelter, and clothing. So for 2 years, from 2008 to 2010, I was like looking for side hustles, businesses to start. And there was a point when I was so desperate, I bought a nail printer, and I decided, what if I just print nails in the mall, and I decided to call it hot nails. Like, I have a master's degree and I'm going to go to the kiosk and print nails for people. But that failed too. This time in 2010, we had our second child, and I'm like, okay, two kids living in the basement. But in 2010, I had an idea of starting a chocolate business. I'm like, everyone loves chocolate. So I decided to make recipes, and I decided to make a kiosk, and decided, okay, Philippines is a cacao growing region. I want to make it like Starbucks and design a kiosk. So I did. 2010, I launched my cafe. It was called Tablea Chocolate Cafe, and we grew the business from one kiosk to seven in 2 years. But again, I was not doing architecture. No, I didn't have any job. So I'm like, yay, this is great. I love my job. I mean, people loved it. People were calling me from Hong Kong, from Singapore, trying to franchise my cafe. And I was not ready for that. So I'm like, well, just take it easy. And then 2010, some of my friends who used to work in Coach now worked in Michael Kors. And they asked me, hey, Aya, can we outsource to you and do some production drawings for us? I'm like, sure. But I didn't know it was going to grow rapidly too. So I was working 18-hour days. I would work in the cafe from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. and I check all the stores. And then from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. every day, I wanted to catch the New York time, because we were still learning, working with New York standards. And every day I would get red lines, like the whole page of all my drawings were filled with red lines. Every day I thought I was gonna get fired. But 10 years later, I'm still working with Michael Kors and it's been really great. But I was like so tired. I said, I didn't move to the Philippines to be so exhausted, to not see my family. And my husband would actually visit me at like 10 a.m., at 10 p.m. in the office, bring me food. And since he's a writer, he did quality control for all Michael Kors drawings, find errors, because, it was just over. I only had one employee then. That's why I'm like, you know what? This has got to change. I haven't exercised. I don't spend with my time with my family. So that's why I decided to take control of my, my life and make sure I can still spend time with my family. So fast forward, that was 2010. It took me 10 years to figure out how to, the kind of hacks that I needed for my life. So now I manage the MGS Global Group. We basically do architecture and graphic support. So we support architecture firms in their production, as well as now we've branched out to MGS Graphics. So we help creative agencies with their graphics. So we have a graphics team. And also the Architect My Life business coaching and online learning. This is really geared for creatives who want to start a business or grow their businesses, like architects, interior designers, and things like that. And also the AML podcast, which I'll talk about later. So that's the backstory on how I decided, I wanted to share all my secrets and hacks and how I manage my time. Working in 2 time zones, I still work every night with my team in the Philippines. So let's talk about work-life integration, time management, workflow, productivity planning. I have these 3 hacks that I will explain in the next slides. Okay, so I make sure every year, like right now, it's December, right? I make sure I write 7 to 10 goals in the beginning of the year or December, like right about this time. And I make sure I have around maybe 6 committed goals, meaning the goals that I have to do, like update my website or, prepare your household budget. These are the goals that you have to do, that you commit to. And aspirational goals, maybe 2 aspirational goals, the goals that are really hard to accomplish. But if you accomplish 50% of your goals, then you're already ahead. So I wrote this. This is how I write my goals, guys. I just use markers and I make my own sketch. So I have goal statements. One of my aspirational goals was to increase sales by 50%. That was a committed goal before COVID, by the way. Before COVID, I was on track to increase my sales by 50. But right now, if you look, increase my sales by 50%, that's really an aspirational or stretch goal, because I'm just trying to survive and my team is still intact. So, things like this, or prepare my household budget, right? That's my life, right? I just moved to a new house, so I need to reorganize my budget. Or look at this, Graciela, speak at the AIA Long Island. Graciela and I were talking last year. We were talking last year. So that was a committed goal because I was committed, but it became a stretch goal because how am I going to get myself to Long Island? But the thing is, if you don't write these goals, it will never happen, right? I mean, look, I it's kind of rough, right? MGS design website, like I lose weight and lose weight by Q2. I gained weight in Q2 because I've been cooking a lot. But guess what? I lost 18 pounds, 2 more to go. So I'm on a diet now because I need 2 more pounds till 2020. So these are the things I do every year. So I think you should start doing this. But the most important is you have to revise and look at the plans every quarter and share it with an accountability partner. Because if you don't have an accountability partner, it's not going to happen. Also, this is actually not made by me. This is an OKR system. It's called Objective and Key Results. This is a system that Google uses to track accountability for their team members. And it's actually a whole system. You can take classes on the OKRs, Objective Key Results, and I'll add that in the list at the end. So that's my annual goal setting. And again, guys, it can be as rough as a sketch or a bond paper, but you need an accountability partner. The next one is my big three rule. So how do I break down my yearly goals? I make sure I write down my big three per month, per year, per week, and per day. I run several businesses. I have kids at home. I don't want to waste my time. I want to be laser focused on doing the things that I have to do per month, per week, and per day. So it's the daily three. And again, this is how I can get my goals accomplished by identifying what needs to get done on a monthly basis. Only three, not five, but three. For those A-type people, three is fine. So next and the last one is probably the biggest my biggest hack for success is the ideal week planning. Right before COVID, and I've been doing this for the longest time. I always try to plan my if you don't control your schedule will control you. And right now it's so we can easily get distracted by doing laundry. If I see dishes on the counter, I kind of want to do the dishes or water my plants, things like that. So guys, if you don't control your schedule, it will control you. What am I so this is my number one hack for my ideal week planning. When COVID hit and we were all I knew we were all going to be home. I created my ideal week. So what does that mean? Right? I mean, I'm not going to do this every day, but this is kind of the framework of my week. So has any one of you heard about time blocking or your flow mode? Do you guys know what that is? Anyway, flow mode is, like when you're in a zone, when you're in the zone of genius, when you're in college or when you were in college, the time when you can be most productive doing your exam, your design plates, the flow mode. Everyone needs to know when their flow mode is, like when their brain is the most active and focused, right? My flow mode is in the morning because I slept well. Other people might be nocturnal, and so their flow mode might be in the evening. But the first thing I suggest everyone doing is establishing or knowing when their flow mode is, right? And then I break it down. I do time blocking. So what does time blocking mean? I work in different time zones. So if you look in, I don't know if it's purple or blue in your screen, my big daily three I do from 9 to 12. And I make sure I turn off my phone unless it's an emergency. I mean, my husband can call me or my kids can call me, but those are my sacred hour, Get everything done. The most important thing or anything that has to do with brain power in the morning, do that in your flow mode, right? And then in the afternoon, that's the time I like to take conference calls or meetings, because it's not that intense. So in the afternoon, my time blocking in the afternoon would be the meeting time. And then in the evening, again, to catch my Philippine team, I work from 9 to 10. So those are my time blocks. But if you see, based on my value systems, I have family time and flex time. Flex time, guys, is like, watering my plants. I mean, there's a lot of time in the day. Family time, I make sure we try to eat together 3 times a day, but it doesn't happen. We always normally eat dinner together, but we all have our own schedules. If you can also see, based on the time blocks, I always exercise in the morning, first thing in the morning, because it helps my brain function. And then in the afternoon at 3:30, I try to do a hit workout or jumping jacks because I fall asleep if I'm not like doing something, running or whatever. So that's what I call by time blocking. So you need to know, number one, your flow mode. Next, time boxing. What does that mean? Right? Time boxing is when I box at when I give myself like 30 minutes to do a proposal or 20 minutes to write my blog. So I make sure I set my alarm and do it for 30 minutes and forget about Instagram and Facebook, right? So I do that all throughout my time blocks. Like during flow mode, if I have a proposal to do and I only have 3 hours in flow, so I do a proposal in 30 minutes. So again, it just gives you're just controlling your life better, right? So batching, what does that mean? I make task batching is like you batch a particular number of tasks. Like I try to do my emails like emails with my team in the afternoon. So I do all of them in the afternoon. Or my billing and accounting is every Friday. It's kind of like laundry. You don't do laundry every day. You wait till the weekend till you have enough laundry to do. So again, it gives me a system, right? Every Friday is um accounting, and conference calls in Wednesdays, or I talk to my executive assistant on Tuesdays or whatever. And day theming, like you have a theme per day. Like, right now you see Taco Tuesdays, Giving Tuesdays. That's a thing now. So I also theme my days, like, executive assistant Tuesday and Thursday. Even Wednesdays, I have a date with my daughter. We go get Chick-fil-A. I'm in line like 30 cars because we can't go in. Every Wednesday I make sure I don't take meetings from 12 to 1, because that's her thing. I mean, she doesn't see any friends, and the highlight of her week is me driving to Chick-fil-A. So for my friends or whoever is in here who know me, yeah, I'm in the drive-through from 12 to 1. So that's what I call day theming. And this has really helped me. But guys, look, at the end of the day, I have Netflix. I mean, in my flex time, I could also do social media and Netflix. Again, this is just a way to plan your ideal week. It's not like I'm not crazy writing every single hour of my day, but this is how I structure my day. And I also did this for my son, by the way. When summer hit, they didn't have school. He didn't have a structure anymore. So he and I sat down and I created an ideal week for him. And we had a family meeting, and we all said, this were our schedules. Don't bother mom from 9 to 12, or so we kind of knew what we were doing in the household. My kids are 10, 11 and 13, so they're not in diapers anymore, thank God. So we're kind of independent. But again, I think we really have to take control of our lives and how we spend our time and how we can maximize our time, so that we can, there's leftover time for the things that we love, like hanging out with our family, my kids, watching Netflix, reading a book, cooking dinner, things like that. And again, I have time every night. I still talk to my Philippine team. So so guard your time. You cannot get it back. Plan everything as best as you can. This takes utmost discipline. We as architects or designers, we're so good at planning CDs and the foundation work. We're anal about writing, making sure all the layers are, followed, all the systems. But what are we doing for ourselves, right? Like, how are we taking control of our lives? So, it would be a good exercise to do all three: your annual goals, your big three, and also your ideal week planning. So before I proceed, do you guys have any questions?
If
I have a
anyone
question.
wants to speak, go.
Can I speak?
Yes.
How do you keep motivated? Like, how do you do it?
Um, I love what I do, and everything is based on my value systems. Like, I think about my workouts. I look at YouTube the day before. I buy all this equipment, and the thing is, exercise makes me happy. So that's what motivates me. And later on, you'll see my 5-point charter starter checklist. There's a question there of what is my why, and that's how I live my life. I'm happy because I get to do the things that I love, and when I don't get to do it, then I try to adjust my schedule so I can fit the exercise. Like, I'm not by any chance like a size 0, or like I don't look like an athlete, but I'm really motivated to exercise because it just makes me happy, makes me function better as a mom, as a wife, and as an employee. I think everyone should find something that excites them every day or motivates them. And for people who are not firm owners, employees, this is also a way you can work at the office, because people, I know a lot of architects. They're like, oh my God, my day just flew by. I didn't, I get pulled from different directions. I'm like, you need to manage that as a firm owner. Tell the contractors, okay, maybe in the morning is contractor time. You gotta put out fires, or you gotta manage your time, or else if someone calls you every 2 hours, you're never gonna get the quality work done, right? So I think for employees too, that's how you can maximize your time. And also what I do in my firm or in my company back in the Philippines, I encourage my team to take breaks every 2 hours, or else their brain is gonna, they're gonna get tired. I'm like, go maybe do jumping jacks, walk outside, get a cup of coffee. And my team works an average of 6 hours a day. So yeah, because sometimes doing less is more, because your productivity could go down. Productivity. Yeah. Did I answer your question, Abru? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially right now, it's hard to keep motivated, especially when you have kids, to motivate them. So it's been rough for me to kind of get a schedule going because we are so used to that schedule that we had.
Yeah.
It's very tough to kind of wake up every morning, and every morning it's a different mood. So
But also as a firm owner and as a I'm self-employed, I need to have discipline. My most of my team members are in the Philippines, right? So I mean, when I first moved here, I was like, I didn't have a schedule. I needed to, I mean, before in the Philippines, I would go, I mean, I had the cafes, I had an office, and now this was my mechanism to make sure I was organized and I was doing the things that I needed to do, right? Yeah.
right.
Any other questions?
I can say that I applaud you for all that you do, because it seems still overwhelming listening to you. I think I was more organized when my kids were smaller because I had to be organized. But the older, now that they're all out, and I find that work just, I mean, I'm working all the time. And I think it's because I let that happen.
Yeah.
I let that happen, and it can happen. So I think even through this COVID world, it's not gotten any better, really. I think that now that I'm home most of the time working, it even becomes more so that because I have that access, and I'm not walking away from it at a certain hour from the office. So I'm going to take some of your advice.
Yeah, that's
And
great. I mean, it really, people ask me, how do you do it? I'm like, do you have time for Netflix? I'm like, yeah, I have time for everything. Because when you're very focused and when you have laser focus on the time that your brain is okay. Like my brain kind of like doesn't work that well, like in the afternoons, like I need a break. I need to do jumping jacks, right? So that's how I cope, regenerate. So yeah.
because
Anything
I find
else?
I'm good in the morning and at night, but then the afternoon I do need a break. But it's funny how the morning I'm good.
Yeah.
Afternoon it slows down. Night I become a night owl again, and I start
Yeah.
working, which sort of not good. I should try to do something a little bit different. So I'll work on that.
Good. Anything else?
We have a question in the chat. It's from Prodnia.
Hi, Pradnya.
I hope I pronounced her name right. She's asking, how did you decide on having 3 different branches to your business?
I always try to say yes to the opportunities when I can help people, right? So the architecture support I've been doing forever. And I think Graciela know this. Like every time I try to take my exam, a new architect came to my lap. So I would study again and I never became licensed. And that's a stretch goal. I still hope I can get licensed. But yeah, so I've been doing architecture support for the longest time. But then my graphics design business, that was an opportunity. When I talked to somebody, they said, do you have a graphics team? I said, no. I mean, I did not have a graphics team, but I said yes. And I built a graphics team after, a year. It's probably as equally as profitable as the architecture firm. I mean, architecture support service firm. Like when people are looking for, and this is my advice for you guys, whoever wants to start a business or when you have an opportunity, don't say no right away. You'll say, oh, let me think about that. Or let me see what I can do. Because it's either you can provide this opportunity to other people or you can create your own team. And I knew that architecture and graphics is kind of the same. So I built a graphics design team because of an opportunity. And I realized, oh, it's both creatives, right? It's a creative business. And the third is my architect my life, architect your freedom. So the goal is to coach creatives manage their business. As creatives, we were taught how to master our craft, design, but we were never taught how to run or grow or sustain a business. And I think because of all my mistakes and the things that I've done, I've grown and stretched myself to really um you know have a successful business, right? And I'll teach you hacks later on. I have a separate section for firm owners as well and leveling up the playing field. But so are we good for the next for the people who want to start their firms? I have a pop quiz, guys. What is the most important item to jumpstart your firm or side hustle? Is it a business plan, mindset, or pipeline of clients? All right, a lot of people. Okay, I like this group. Correct. It's mindset, guys. I think life is to have a good and strong mindset is really the most important thing, because you could be the best architect or the best designer, but if you're negative and you're not motivated and you're pessimistic, then you'll never be successful. Like, life is hard and there's things are constantly changing, right? People are getting burnt out. um so I mean, if you have a strong mindset, you can really do anything. When COVID hit in the beginning, I was pretty much screwed because a lot of my clients were in the retail and hospitality industry. I mean, the huge chunk of my business. But what did I do early COVID? I got a coach, Michael Hyatt. He's a business coach, and I attended his course for a 6-week course called Leadership in Crisis, because I knew that as a leader, I needed to have a strong mindset for my team, right? So for people who want to start your own firm, I suggest going through these 5 questions. Number 1, you need to have, do you have a strong mindset? Do you have a scarcity mindset? Or are you a positive person? Do you think you can do it? Can you endure all this pain and suffering? Like, a lot of firm owners, hello, it's hard to sustain a firm, sustain payroll. There's a lot of office drama. It's hard being an employer. So do you have a strong mindset for this? Number 2, what is your why do you want to start a firm, right? I wanted to start a firm because I saw my parents, they're entrepreneurs. I like the way they're employing a lot of people. And one of the things about my being an entrepreneur is to provide jobs for the Filipinos. So I managed to do that. And now I have team members here as well. So that's my why. So you need to ask yourself, why do you want a firm? Do you want a legacy firm? Do you want to sell it in the end? What's the purpose of, not only about starting a firm, but what's the purpose of your life, right? The third, begin with the end in mind. So why are you starting your firm and what's the end goal? If you can answer this question, people who want to start your firm, you're already ahead of like 80% of the architecture firms out there. People, a lot of architects just keep on working and working. And when they die, the firm dies with them. Firm owners, you need to know if you want to just run a business or build an asset so you can sell your business, right? So again, begin with the end in mind, or your plan B. Like my plan A was to live in the Philippines for 3 years, and if it didn't work, come back to the States, right? Or if we moved back because our kids' education here was much better, and my husband wanted to come back. But what's the end goal? What's your exit strategy? Do you want to work forever and not have a plan? We can plan all our CDs, ZDs, all the way till construction and punch listing. But what about your firm? How is it going to end? So if you can answer that, people who want to start their firms, then you're already ahead. Number 4 and 5, do you have a strong support system and do you have a safety net? If you don't, you can build that. You can find people to support you, your spouse, your partner, your parents, your family. If you don't have a safety net yet, it's time to save, maybe start a side business or invest money. So these are the five things that I recommend people do before starting. Because when you have all this, then having a pipeline of clients will follow. Because you're gonna hustle no matter what when you decide that you're ready to start your firm. Um, so I actually burnt out. The reason why I knew I was gonna be an entrepreneur. I don't know what. I didn't know. I mean I didn't know I was gonna be a chocolate girl or have a chocolate business also. But when I first started, I knew I was gonna start my firm, but I didn't know when. But the reason I decided to start was because I burnt out and my boss was not that nice to me. Believe it or not, before I was very shy and I didn't talk much. And one thing that struck me with the boss that I had was like I was working, it was crazy. We were doing deadlines. I slept in the office for 2 days and I sneezed and he was like, "Oh, don't get the drawings dirty." Think like he was not that nice to me. And I mean, I just slept in the office for 2 days. I was living in Queens. My office was in Greenwich, Connecticut. I didn't go home for 2 days and he did that. And I'm like, a lot of things happened that I decided to, start my firm, or other people are probably having the same problem. Like, there's office drama, or you get burnt out, or you're just not excited enough, things like that. And that's how I realized it was the right time. And I have one more story. It's my $5 a day. My husband and I were living in Queens. We both had average, jobs. And I said, I'm so done. I want to start my firm or whatever it is I'll do. He's like, Aya, we just bought a new apartment. I'm like, so? He's like, how can we just do the math? He's like, okay, okay. We did the math. And he's like, we can survive with $5 a day. That's your allowance. I'm like, what? And I like to eat out. I like to buy makeup and stuff like that. He's like, can you make it work? Can you work with $5 a day? So I said, yeah. But guys, living in New York, you can go to the gym. Every gym has a 1 week. My first priority was how can I afford a gym membership? Well, what I did was I went to all the gyms in New York City, boxing gym, yoga gym. They have 1 week free trial. So I maximized all that. A lot of events, free events in Central Park. I'm like, yes, I'm so happy. I'm poor but happy, right? And my first job, guys, after being on my own, was doing shop drawings for an awnings company in Long Island City. And that was the highlight of that was my first client. I was working on a lot of projects, major projects in other firms, but designing shop drawings for awnings in Long Island City was like, yeah, I got my first $300. So if you have that kind of mindset that you're willing to sacrifice, you're willing to have a allowance of $5 in New York, that's not a lot. On the upside, I learned how to cook really well because I didn't have money to go out. So that's where I got my domestic skills. So yeah, any questions?
Catherine has a question. She's asking, how do you find clients, and how much of a safety net do you recommend?
So finding clients, you need to network. Well, first of all, you need to know what kind of clients you're looking for, right? Are you a residential? You do high end residential work. Again, what type? And then you hang out. You do the hang out in the places. When I say hang, Facebook groups and LinkedIn, and try to join as many sessions or classes where you can, or ask friends and family. Try to do pro bono work. In the beginning, if you're just really starting out. I mean, when with my $5 a day story, I had no money and no clients. I got a job from a contractor who I used to work with. He said, "You do shop drawings?" I said, "Yeah." And that was it. I made my first $300. And then he told his people I did shop drawings. I mean, no harm in shop, no shame in shop drawings. It put money in my pocket. You know what I mean? So you can start there. It doesn't matter what it is, right? And how much safety net do you recommend? I don't know if your spouse, or if you have a support system, if somebody in the family has has a full-time job. I recommend at least six, if you want to start your firm, 6 months of savings, because normally it takes around 6 months to find your you know to find a good client. I mean, if you're really really want to. So yeah, but obviously you need your food, shelter, and clothing first. Make sure you can pay your rent and things like that.
One more question from Pansy Chang. 6 months of expenses or day job earning?
It's really up to your lifestyle. Make sure, this is what I would suggest. Make sure you have enough to cover your rent, your car payments, and that, right? And then because the first 6 months, if you so just basic living expenses or how much you're willing to sacrifice, right? I sacrificed not eating out or going to a gym, right? That was major because I love going to the gym. So things like that. What are you willing to give up? The more money, the better. Especially right now, it's important to save right now. So no more questions. I'll move on to the next. Now these are for firm owners. Okay. So business growth strategies in any economy. But first, as a woman, how to level the playing field as a woman. And here is my answer. Like people have asked me how I'm able to get all the big, accounts or the big companies sign with me. It's not really about how, but who, right? So it's not about how, but who you know. So when I first started in New York, my friend Eric, he worked in Coach, and he's like, Aya, we're overwhelmed. Since you're a stay-at-home mom, can you help us? Do you have time? Because we don't have capacity to increase. I said, sure. So Eric worked in Coach. So I started doing that. Again, he's also a mid-level employee in Coach, right? So I developed that contact with Eric. So I worked in Coach and I did about 300 stores. That's how I moved to the Philippines, right? And then Eric got laid off and moved to Michael Kors. And the more senior they became, I grew with them. So now I became the retail girl. So I was doing proposals for Tory Burch, Vince Camuto. All these people knew me as the retail specialist. So it's not how, but who you know. So that's important to know as a woman, right? Like how to level the playing field. That's number one. Number two, who is in your leadership team, right? And Robin knows this. Like we had an event, remember, with Dawn Winkle. Like women don't know how to ask for money. We're shy about, asking for money. So um, when I first moved back to Ohio, I was relying on my retail business. It was fine. Like I didn't have to work. Everything was systematized. But I realized, oh my God, retail was going down because of Amazon and stuff. So I decided to hire, again, this is the who. I decided to hire a business development guy who's not an architect. He worked in HP for 20 years and he helped me. He's like, Aya, let me review your contracts. Oops, you haven't increased your rates. You need to do this. You need to negotiate your pricing. So he helped me in all my meetings. He's not a full-time employee. He's on retainer because I'm a small business. I don't have finances to get a full-time business development guy, but he helped me. That's what I mean by leveling up the playing field as a woman. If you can't do it, ask someone to help you. There was one time a guy called me. He wanted me to work with him, and he's like, hi babe. I mean, like, he called me babe, and I got really offended. But I told Mike, I said, Mike, he's like, Aya, when it comes to proposals, can I just do all the proposal writing? Right? You look like a small firm if you're trying to play with the giants and you're doing your proposals. So I wrote the proposal myself. He sent the email. So that's how big companies say, "Oh, this chick has somebody just doing proposals." Even though I wrote it, he sent it, and that gives me, it's kind of a way to level up the playing field. That's number two. Again, who can help me? Number three, when I moved back to the US, I mean, I was doing all the operations back home in the Philippines. So I operated everything, client relations, but big companies like systems, right? They like who does this for your company. So when I moved here, I hired an operations manager in the Philippines who took care of all my operations and systematized everything. I didn't know how to do that. She worked in a construction company, and now she has communication protocols. She has onboarding protocols. I'm like, oh, I didn't know any of this. So big companies like Michael Kors, they have all these protocols. I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to just write. No, no, no. There's a system. There's protocols to do that. Again, it's not how, but who helped me. So that's my operations manager. And with her, I can sleep every night. I don't have to work all night. And I didn't want to hire an operations manager because, I'm an architect. I want to do everything. I'm not an architect. I'm an associate architect, but you know what I mean, right? So if you don't have money to hire your leadership team or to onboard them as consultants, get advisors. Find people in your advisory board, your friends who are attorneys, your friends who have successful businesses. I'm sure they can help you strategize and how to level the playing field and just how to help you run a business, successful business. One thing also that I learned, you need to have mentors that are under 30. I'm 45. I need mentors under 30 because I don't know how to use Snapchat. I need to be informed. Like people talk in Instagram now, like I didn't know that, right? So you need to know what's going on in the world. And last, I have a management consultant. It's based in Cleveland to help me with finding my blind spots, right? Like, as our ego gets in the way, we think we know everything, but we don't. So I hired a management consultant on an hourly basis just to touch base. The Gimium Group, it's like, um, this consultant is focused on technology and investing. And you're like, why do I hire somebody in technology and investing? Why? Because as an investor, he knows what's going on in the world, what companies are thriving, what are dying, and he's in technology. So for long-term planning, he helps me find my blind spots, helps me stay relevant, and helps me plan for the future because you never know what's going to happen in the business. So again, that's part of my leadership team. It's not how, but who. So the last, proven business development strategies in any economy. So right now, as firm owners, it's really hard to find business or even ask for money or to promote your business. I had a hard time in the beginning. I'm like, how do I even collect money from my clients? Like I felt bad. I had all these doubts, or how I don't want to, sell my services. So things like that. Again, these are a lot of problems that business owners face early COVID. I don't know how people have adapted, but here are my business development strategies in any economy. Um, a little backstory about networking. When I first moved to Cleveland in 2012, I was busy like just setting up the home, and like I managed to hire the people in the Philippines to run all the other companies. So I was focused on just, working from my basement. Literally, I worked from my basement. And I realized, oh my God, like my pipeline of jobs were decreasing. Like I used to do 100 stores a month. Now it's down to 20. And I still have a full staff. And I realized when I was walking with a friend, she's like, Aya, she's a business consultant, but we're friends. She's like, Aya, nothing's going to happen if you hang out in your basement. You need to network. And then that's where it snapped. I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, how do you find clients when you're in your basement? And this was early in my career when I was relying on just Michael Kors and the retail industry. So that was not a good thing. I mean, it was a learning experience, but you need to network. Like when in 2014 I joined the AIA, that's how I met Robin, and I kind of emerged from the basement. And I decided, okay, I'm done hanging out in the basement. It's time to meet people, right? So you need to network, you need to do the hang out in Facebook groups, hang out in LinkedIn groups, or join Zoom calls, or chime in different events, or offer to be a speaker. So that's what I mean by networking. And people say, you're so lucky you have all these clients. I'm not lucky, guys. I spend a lot of time developing relationships, and the more relationships you have, the luckier you are, right? So I mean, a lot of us are artists. We're shy. We just want to draw, design, do like fun stuff. But when you're a business owner, you need to network. Second, diversity, meaning diversify. I quickly learned that it was a mistake just to put all my eggs in one basket. So I quickly switched to hospitality. So now I do retail and hospitality. So I joined some expos in Las Vegas, and that's how we need to make sure that we're not putting all our eggs in one basket. And the third is marketing. For firm owners, marketing is not an expense, it's an investment, right? So for people who are like, I don't have money to do marketing, it's too much, I'll do it myself. You know, as a business owner and a boss, it's our moral obligation to land projects to sustain our business. That's my why, right? I felt so bad. I was when my retail business was going down, I was going back to the Philippines every like twice a year to manage all my businesses back home. I felt bad. I had a heavy heart that I was going to lay off my staff. And that was irresponsibility on my part, right? It's like, okay, I put all my eggs in one basket. I didn't want to go home and lay off like part of my team. So again, for firm owners, try to diversify as best as you can. And marketing is important. It's not an expense, it's an investment. Okay. So people are like wondering how, if it's tactful to sell during COVID, or how do you promote your business. There's a quote by Jay Abraham. I don't know if you know him. He's a marketing expert. He quoted, if you have a product that delivers value, you have a moral obligation to serve as many people as you can, right? So if you have a product that delivers value, you have a moral obligation to serve as many people as you can. And that's how I decided, oh, okay, I should not be shy about promoting my company, because how many firm owners need me? But my narrative is, I don't ever take jobs away from Americans. My company always only provides support staff on an as need basis, right? If you need help, I provide support. But I never want to take jobs from, American companies. So I realized, okay, since I have a value to provide to some small architects who need, who can't afford full-time personnel, then it was my moral obligation to say, hey, I'm here to help. If you need 5 hours a week, that's, you don't need to sign a contract with me. So that's, one of the ways to network or to do some marketing. So I have a story about one time when I had to diversify. um, at that time, I was doing a lot of retail work and the pipeline was decreasing. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna start. Um, there's one expo in Las Vegas called the Hospitality Design Expo. Again, I have no experience in hospitality hotels. I have no experience, but I know how to do renderings. I know how to do shop drawings. We do all this millwork details. So I'm like, it's kind of the same, right? So I decided, okay, I had money, just that, I didn't have a lot of money because I was laying off people. So I had enough. I said, okay, I'm going to go to Las Vegas and join the Hospitality Design Expo. It's the biggest. The Marriott company, the Four Seasons, everyone was in Vegas. So I decided to join. I got in, luckily, because they screened those people who joined. So I got a booth there. And Mike, my business development guy said, Aya, don't man your booth, okay? You need people to man your booth. I'm like, what? This is the biggest expense I've spent ever. Like, I'm borrowing money to make money. He's like, Aya, trust me, you need to just, bring your team and just walk around. Trust me on that. Because if you want to get the big clients, you can't be standing for 10 hours a day manning your booth. Believe me. So I said, okay. So I went there. I got two people from Cleveland to man my booth. I don't have a product, guys. I don't, like people there were selling fixtures, they were selling lighting. So I had 10,000 postcards. That's all I had, and my screen. And the biggest expense of my life, I went to Vegas. I hired two interns to give, they're all really nicely dressed to give postcards. I had two people in sales man my booth, but guess what? My postcards got lost. FedEx lost 10,000 postcards. So I was devastated. I'm like, this is the biggest expense in my life, and I'm in tears. I mean, those two girls, I had like 20 postcards in my bag, but my team was like, don't worry, we'll manage, we'll manage. So, and Mike was like, I don't walk, don't be in your booth. So I was like in the food court, hanging out, checking. I didn't get any clients, but guess what? At the last day, I got a lot of leads. And when people came to my booth, my staff said, oh, let me see if our CEO is around. Like, yeah, she's in the food court hanging out, right? Things like that. So I came in, I talked to them, and that turned out to be McDonald's and Chipotle. I found them in HD Expo, right? I'm like, oh. And then now I started doing a lot of work for major hotels because of that. So you kind of have to trust in your instincts and take calculated risks and level the playing field. Like, it was so painful for me to just hover around, right? And looking at my empty booth, but it all, luckily panned out. And 2 years, no, I think 4 years later, I'm working with those clients I met in Vegas, even though I lost 10,000 postcards. So, that being said, my journey has been really crazy. From selling, nails in the kiosks to chocolate to, running all these businesses. And I can truly say I'm really happy. I mean, obviously it's challenging at times when payroll is hard to make, but if we have support, if we have our confidence to succeed, I think we all can make it. And I want to impart my last few slides. I want to share some of the books that I read. I read a lot of books um, that has helped me along the journey um, here. So these are the books that I have. Take a screenshot if you're interested. If you want to know the objective key results book that Google uses, it's Measure What Matters. Never Eat Alone is my book on networking. The Big Leap. These are really amazing books that I have with me constantly. I always refer to them. So yeah, it's important to, as architects, also not to only surround ourselves with architects, but maybe meet other people too, like people in technology, younger people, the 20-year-olds, because you learn a lot from society and culture if you just meet different types of people. Um, So I recently launched a podcast and I'm inviting people. We're booking podcast guests now. So we're looking for firm owners who have stories and inspiring stories of success to share with our audience. So we're trying to invite as many firm owners or who are interested in sharing their story. So if you can come to the AML website, there's a button that will say apply. You can apply. So, we would love to hear your stories. And last but not the least, for business owners, I have a gift for you. If you come to my website, I have a Foolproof Business Accelerator checklist. It's a free download it's like the entire complete checklist for how to accelerate your business in 2021. So that's it, guys. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Aya, so much for this great session. I would like to invite everyone to unmute themselves if you want to just talk to each other instead of just doing chat. I think one of the parts that I like most from the whole presentation was to hear about how you are not scared. Like I can feel that even though you struggle so much and even though it was very difficult, you kept pursuing that dream, and persistency, I think, is the key of everything. And that's something I think most of us, at least myself, I need to learn that from you. I need to not be that scared. I take my own initiatives. I have my own projects, my own goals that I do, but I'm very cautious because of the financial part. So I'm like, oh, but if I make this big step, like, no, my financial stability, I don't want to jeopardize that. But I think you don't even have that in your mind. You just jump and you just go for it. And I think that's why you are so good at being successful at what you do.
Because, one thing I know is everything is temporary. And that's what my dad planted in my head. Success is temporary and failure is temporary, right? So if you have that mindset, then you'll be fine. Like, okay, when I was living at home with two kids with no money, literally, like my apartment in Queens, I could not rent it out anymore. For people who know how the co-op system works, I had to ask the co-op in Jackson Heights if I can rent it out for 3 years. I was literally, I'm like, Larry, what are we gonna do? We'll just live in the farm and grow our own vegetables. Like, it was my lowest point with two kids. But you know what? That was temporary, right? So you kind of have to manage all that, and in the end, it will work out if you have people that love you. Surround yourself with your support system, your spouse, your partner, your family. You'll be fine. Like, we always have 100. This is what I learned from my leadership in crisis training. We all have 100% chance of surviving our darkest days, and we're still around, right? So yeah.
Anyone has any questions that would
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank you for all of your tips because I'm definitely took good notes. Gonna see what I can do to get myself in order because I do need some order. Um, and I guess you're still looking. You never stop looking. You're still looking for new facets to your to different businesses. And I guess that's one thing that you're trying to say. Never stop looking. Never turn anything down. Never. Or do you ever turn anything down? Let me ask that question.
um
Opportunities.
I won't. I'll do my best, even if it's not for me. I always try to connect, and that's probably why I don't have a scarcity mindset, because if I can't do it, I'll say, you know what, let me find people who can help you, right? Like, if I can't do it myself, I'll find somebody I can help, and that's how I get all my work. My father he's a philosopher and a theologian, and he said to me, Aya, if you live your life like this with a closed fist and you don't give, you never receive anything. And as Filipinos, like, my husband knows this about me, our house is like an open house. I don't know if there are any Filipinos in the group, or people from Latin America. Like, everyone belongs to our house, right? When we were living in the Philippines, Larry is like, who's that person? He's our family member, like a third degree cousin, because my father is so generous. So he's like, give till it hurts and don't expect anything in return, because things will come. It's like, if you turn off the faucet of money, nothing will flow. So
Mhm.
whenever I can pay my team, I always thank the universe. Like, thank you that I can, when I get bills and I can pay it, I'm like, yay. You know what? With my stretch goals, my committed goal was 50% increase. I was, 50% increase before COVID in sales. But again, it became a stretch goal. So I can't grow 50% in sales, but I'm still here and I haven't laid off a single person. So for me, I already won, right? I didn't make
Right.
money. So things like that, you just have to keep on going. One story of my, growing up in the Philippines, I didn't own a bike. I don't know why my dad was not into, my first bike was when I was in New York City. And New Yorkers, we don't drive and we don't bike. Like, I barely drive anywhere. Like, Robin, when I go to our meetings in downtown, I take an Uber.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, she's a princess. No, I'm not. I
No,
don't drive the highway, right? It's like, especially in the snow. But my point is, I didn't know how to bike. So everyone in my group in New York, they were biking, and I bought a bike crying in tears. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 23. It's my first bike. It's the worst. But guess what? I became a triathlete, and biking is like my strongest, sport now, even though I didn't get my first bike till 23, and I've had a lot of bike accidents. But it's just, you kind of have to push yourself. Again, that's why mindset is important. Like, get winning that awning job and shop drawings. That was great. Like, I could eat in a nice restaurant, So yeah, you just have to keep on going. Yeah, so try to do that for this year. Your annual goals, find an accountability partner, write them down, stretch yourself, like Sandra, you have a big company, so I don't know what kind of stretch goals you have because you're already really successful, but you know, double that kind of you'll never know if you attain 50% of your stretch goal, you already are ahead, right? Yeah. So also really marketing, like I I I didn't really believe in marketing until I had to, because for me, spending money and borrowing from my line of credit was more responsible than laying off my people. These people are, I've been to their weddings, their children's baptisms. I know them. We grow up together in a way. So that's part of my narrative, right? How can I provide for others? And as much as I want to be licensed, and oh my God, Robin, I've been trying forever. My brain is not,
You
um
have a few other things going on. I mean,
Yeah,
my
not
my
only that,
operations manager told me I studied in my 30s when I moved to the Philippines, and then I studied again when I moved back. But then I had all this business, and I was like, I was not that nice. I wasn't making food for my family. I was nasty. I was in a bad mood constantly. And then my operations manager said, Aya, why do you want to get your license? You already have three businesses. And I said, oh, that's true. It didn't really align with my values. My value is to be healthy, to be happy, to serve my family. And I ignored all that. My husband was like, oh, mom failed her exam. Don't talk to her. I'm like, oh, right. But again, maybe it's not the right, maybe I'm not, right now it's not the time for me to be licensed. Maybe my calling is to help architects. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's working for you. I mean, a license is good if you want if you use that license to do something. If you don't need it for what you're doing, you're successful, you're happy, and you're
Yeah, but Sandra, like that's like I'm very goal oriented. Like I've finished a lot of long distance races and swimming out, a lot of things, and that's one thing I'm like, that could be a stretch goal.
so that's your bucket list goal, right? I
Yeah.
gotta do this before I go. Okay,
But for
gotcha.
people who are not licensed and you're still young, take your license now. Take your exams.
It's
Yeah.
never too late, Aya.
Never too
Yeah.
late. Never too late.
wait till
Yeah.
it aligns with your goal, with your
Right.
priorities.
Yeah,
That's
and then that's what my staff said. She's like, and my husband was like, you're in a bad mood. You're not happy anymore because like it was so stressful, and I was not sleeping. Again, it was like, why am I doing this? I'm like, you know what? I'll make all the architects happy. They can deliver, to their clients. So I kind of gave up right now because I have a lot going on, as you can
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah. So maybe when your kids are grown, maybe that comes back onto your list because you'll have a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Maybe, but never.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? This was such a great group, and I hope that I was able to answer your questions. Yeah, I'm still around till 1:30 if you just want to chit chat.
I think it was very inspirational. Like I'm completely like I have now so many ideas and so many things that I want to do. Like, oh, we have one question. Oh, is a comment from Paul. He says you don't need your license to be successful, obviously. And yes, you are the perfect example of that. It
Thanks.
depends on your business, how like what Sandra was saying and Robin is how, on how you're running your business. So right now your business model works
Yeah, it
because
does. Yeah.
the services that you are providing do not require that. So
Yeah.
it all depends on what is your end product. If you are designing houses, buildings, spaces that require you to be an architect because of that specific state or location, then yes, go for it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, and I don't believe, even though we all went for architecture, license is a must be. We all know that not everybody needs a license, and sometimes people don't even think about that.
Yeah. Some
Yeah.
people go into other industries that don't require it, but still use everything they've learned from the schooling of being an architect in another industry. So, and
Yeah.
they don't require an architect's license, which is fine. I mean, but they still have
Yeah.
that schooling and background. So,
Yeah. But I think that's my biggest, yeah, I might write that down in 5 years, because if I write it down next year, forget it. I won't be a nice person. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, there was one time when I went to a reunion for my graduate school in Colombia, and people who go to Ivies, they're like, they have all these fantastic projects all over the world, right? Like they design this and that, and I went to the reunion and I'm like, so Aya, what do you do? I'm like, I do drafting services. But you know what? That's why I always have this thing, right? But then I'm over it after my staff said, "You're already successful. You're fine." But always there's, we're not perfect. We all have our insecurities, but you just kind of have to reassess again the value system. The exams made me really irritable. I wasn't focusing on the family, and I was already running like three businesses then. So yeah, sometimes you just have to let things go.
That's been
like,
my struggle to study. I
How
feel like
old? I mean, if
I
yeah, I won't ask you how old you are, but yeah, it takes a while. But I actually did the There's a lot of tools to help you right now with
yeah,
the
it gets
architectural design.
overwhelming though. There's just so many tools out there, but like I've never been a studier.
Yeah.
So like even in college, I look at my college books and I'm like, they're like brand new. So I think I retain, information, but going back and like reading a book and like studying it, it doesn't register. End up forgetting everything, or I can't concentrate. So I'll pick up a book and I'm like, I can't do this, and I put it down. It's been more challenging these days, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, yeah. When we were younger, it was easier. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
It's been very tough.
So you guys are lucky. I mean, those of you who are licensed, you got it done and over with.
I hear now there's a lot of video study points too. So I know for me, I always like going to lectures and they always helped me more than reading it. I think I'd go to a lecture and then read the book because it helped me to retain after I've gone and heard someone speak it and then read it again to reinforce it. So they have a lot of those out there too now. Um,
Yeah, that's true. Like they can do that, right? The PDF reader.
mm,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the exams are getting easier now. It's like now you're able to take the exam. I think they're putting that in effect this month, sometime this month, where you can actually take the exam at home while having a moderator.
Yeah. Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
yeah,
so
I heard that too. Yeah.
it's something to try, I guess. Maybe. I don't
Yeah. Just don't give up. Just keep on doing it. A
know.
friend of
Don't
mine
be
took,
discouraged by all means.
yeah,
Don't be discouraged.
like my
By all
friend has been trying for 6 years. So, it's all about the end game, right? So, and you have to be in it for the long term. I mean, I never believe in overnight success, right? I've built my company for like since 2008, and it's 2020, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And I always try to keep on learning. And people are always see the one thing about a lot of business owners in general are the egos, like I know everything attitude. Sometimes the most successful people are the ones who give credit to the people in their team, because it will give them room to grow and to learn.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I got laid off back in April, so I don't think I've ever experienced that emotion with everything else. And then I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do now?
So what are you doing now,
So
Ebru? What?
I opened my own little thing, a little shop that I'm just working. I have 2 projects that I'm kind of like focusing on right now, and I teach on the side. I'm not teaching this semester, but I'm going to be teaching in the springtime in 2021.
That's great.
Um, so, you know, it's teaching is great. That's just something that's gives satisfaction. But work is very important. So we'll see. I'm just trying to find projects that I can do at home myself. And I felt like I focus more.
Yeah,
So I've just been doing CDs and
that's
have this
perfect.
big project. So
So other things, when I first moved here, I didn't share this, but I applied to become a bike mechanic, believe it or not, down in performance bicycles for Cleveland people. Because again, I was irresponsible then. I was just like, yeah, I have money coming in. And then when the pipeline went down, I hustled. I went to the bike store. I applied. I know bikes inside out now. I can assemble a bike. So I applied and I was a makeup artist. I would do makeup for my friends. They pay me, things like that. So if you can find things that, again, I'll do only the things that I love. Bikes, makeup. I can bake cakes if I needed to, things like that. There's no harm
yeah,
in making an honest living, right?
going to another direction. I mean, I've been
Yeah,
cooking like crazy now. You
I
know,
can see.
my days were always from like I would wake up at 6 a.m. and I would be home at 9. So I wouldn't even get a chance to cook for my son. I always had the help of my parents to take care of him and build that structure. So I am Turkish, so we're very like, family oriented and we're always eating together. But now I'm able to cook for him. And I'm like, this is so therapeutic. I'm just gonna keep cooking, and that's all I do. I'm like, maybe I should make a YouTube channel. I don't know. I
No,
just something
seriously, that's why you need mentors who are 20 years old. They can help you with your YouTube.
right. I know I'm
There's
gonna get him to help me. He's gonna be 16. I'm like, I loaded a program in his computer to like, I guess, edit videos. I'm like, can you do this? And he hasn't done it. He loves gaming, so I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, you gotta help me out here.
You
But
So
know, every
right now, entrepreneurs will save the world. Really, like
yeah,
job security is really very hard, right? So I mean, if I can give advice on architects who want to start a side hustle, content creation is really important. Like I hire people to write my articles. So if you're a good writer as an architect, you can become a writer for firms, talk about their projects, thought leadership. So content creation is really, really good. Or people who business development managers, like I need business development people. I don't know how Sandra does hers, but it's important to network. You find people like if you wanted to do a side gig, if you know like so many people, then you can do that. You can be part of the business development team and they pay you 10%, 5% to for per client. So there are a lot of things you can do, or drafting services, rendering services, um you know a lot of different things you can do. But one thing that I think is going to be really important now is content creation, because as much as I want to write all my blogs, it's really hard. So I mean, other people, that's their marketing tool now. They write blogs to provide value and to promote their companies. So for people who want to make extra, I'm sure if you post it in any of our groups, if you're a writer, hey, I can write for your company, I can write blogs, you're a content creator. And that is really, I mean, I landed a really big job because I wrote something on my blog and I posted it. Again, that's part of marketing. Like, I'm not a writer. Like, I like to sketch. Like, you look at my notebook, it's filled with markers and stickers, right? But you kind of have to do it. So if you're a good writer, you can do that for sure. Talk about latest trends in sustainable design, or whatever it is that you're an expert on. Just put yourself out there and say, hey, are you looking for a writer for your blog? I can write about these topics. I assure you, you're going to get that, because firm owners or business owners were supposed to post content at least once a week.
yeah.
And that's the way people are getting clients now. Yeah. Anything else?
it looks like we don't have any more questions, and it's almost 1:30. So maybe we can just wrap up. I want to thank everyone that joined us today. I'm used to the night sessions. And I would also thank Robin and Sandra for joining us in putting together this event. And most importantly, thank Aya for her amazing story and all the tips and advice that we got today from you, Aya. Ebru, thank you so much for all your support. And I'm really, really happy that we were able to put this event together. We have another event in Long Island, Women in Architecture. We're hosting in 2 weeks a panel with 6 presidents of New York State. We are all women, and I think it's the first year that New York State has so many women representing at the chapters level. So we will be happy to share that panel for everyone. And Robin and Sandra, if you have anything coming up in Cleveland, feel free to tell everybody.
I don't think we do. I think we're
This
The
year.
end of the year.
yeah.
Yeah, we're planning for next year. A large event that always happens in March, but we'll keep you abreast of that. So
Okay, so yeah, no, this was supposed to be our last event of the year, but then we put together this panel. So we hope everybody can join us just to hear our stories on how we struggled this COVID year, and we are wrapping up 2020. We're hoping for 2021. Much.
Mind if I take our photo?
Sure. Yeah, everybody put cameras on. I see someone
Direct
else like,
cameras
oh,
on.
I want to show up. Thank you. Thank
So
you,
if you
everyone.
guys have any questions,
Right.
reach out to me on my hello@architectmylife.com. Hello@architectmylife, or yeah. So
And we will
I'm happy to talk to you guys and help you. Yeah.
And,
Thank
we
you,
will
Ryan.
post the session too on our channels on Cleveland and Long Island. So if you want to pass it along someone else that missed it, please feel free. Just we will post that soon, if not today.
Okay.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.